Step 2, make them shiny. And they should be in there for about a couple hours. Okay, so this is case lube so that the cases don't get stuck in the sizing die. Quick spray. Vertical from the top so we get the inside of the case mounts. And then we have sizing and decapping. All 50 cases that we're reloading. Like, you know. SAMI spec for 308 AC blackout for the case length is 1.368 inches. So we've got our caliper. We're going to measure if we need to trim. This case is 1.360. So it's already shorter than SAMI spec, so we don't need to trim. Now, case prep to make sure that we load properly. Right here, this is a Franklin Arsenal case prep station. This is the primer pocket reamer. So, let's pick one that's black. You can see the dirt in the primer pocket there. So, we ream the primer pocket. It's just a few seconds, nice and shiny, no more crud in the primer pocket. Then, to make sure that the bullet seats properly, we need to chamfer the case mouth. And you need to do it super quick. You don't want a sharp edge, you just want the edge chamfered. So, real quick run on both of the chamfering tools to make sure it's nice and smooth, and we can see the bullet in there. And that's it for case prep. 50 cases to do that with, to prep for the load. And then, they are ready for new primers. Nice and shiny. It's not sharp. It's got a flat top. Good to go. Alright. So now it's time to prime these beasts. We've got number 400 CCI small rifle primers. There's 100 to a single box. We're only doing 50 rounds. So essentially we need to count out 5 drops, half a box. So we're going to flip this over into our shake case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 50 primers. We close up the rest of the box. Now, these need to be this side up, the explosive side up, not the back. And what the ridges in here do when you shake it is they gently catch the lip and flip the primer onto the correct side. So you can see now all of the primers are explosive side up. We don't see any of the silver backside of the primers. So, at that point, we are ready to go ahead and prime. The RCBS hand primer that I use is one of the more comfortable ones. I need to do that again. Flipped a few primers, put the top on. So, there we go. All the primers are explosive side up. This RCBS hand primer is one of the more comfortable ones for guys with big hands. So now we've got the chute closed, so you see the primers can't drop out of there right now until we move that green slider up, which moves a little piece of plastic out of the way so the primers can go through the end there. So put this into our priming tool. Like, this already has the shell holder in it for 223 Remington or 300 Blackout. It's the same shell holder. It appears to be a number 4 shell holder. I'm not sure if that's Lee or RCBS. I think it's a Lee number 4 shell holder. They're interchangeable in presses most of the time, unless you get some weird. They had some X shell holder type for a while. But anyways, so essentially what we do, we open our chute now. So the primers are allowed to flow free. If I push this up, if I can slowly push this out. There's some spring issue. Interesting. Huh. I will have to figure out what went wrong here. Yeah. It did something funky. There's a primer stuck in there. More than one, possibly? Aha! I see what's wrong here. There's a spring-tensioned raise bar that fell out of its channel. I'm going to have to correct that before we prime. There we go. Okay. We're working again. Alright. Now for this primer, we're just going to put it right back in there where it was. So, now, for priming, where'd I put that bullet? There it is. Or casing. So you'll see when I push the lever, primer comes up and through into the die. The case rim is held by the shell holder. And essentially, the ram just pushes the primer into the primer pocket, like so. And we have a primed piece of brass. I don't know if that focused or not. It looks like it focused. So, anyways, now we got to do that with all 50 of the ones that we are reloading. And I'm going to stop the video while I do that. And we'll be back after. Alright, so it's time to get powder measured out and get powder in the cases. So we filled our hopper here with H110 for subsonic 300 blackout loads. It's the first time I've ever used this powder measure, so what we're going to do is make sure that we've run enough powder through it to make it accurate. So let's just get some powder through there. Alright. Now, 9.5 grains is my target. After researching the loads on other people's subsonic rounds with 220 grain jacketed bullets. I've got my scale here set up and leveled and set for 9.5 grains. So we are going to see where we're at. We are a little over 9.5, so we are going to take our measure here, and we're going to do 1/8 of a turn in to reduce the volume of the powder that goes through the drum. Oh, we spilled a little bit there. Do that measure again. Alright, see where that puts us. Closer, but we're still a little over. Let's do another 1/8 of a turn. Reduce the volume that's allowed to go into the drum. That is just about perfect. So now, usually before I start filling bullets, I need 5 consistent measures in a row. So we're going to do that. And that's spot on. So at this point I am confident that I will get a consistent right about 9.5 grain charge every time I rotate the drum. So I'm going to start filling cases. So for that, we're going to set these up so we know what we filled and what's not filled. Losing track of your place in filling is a good way to get a double charge and blow a gun or your face or your hand up. So you want to make sure that you have a reliable system for you to keep track of which cartridges you've charged and which cartridges have yet to be charged. So for this one, what I do, the uncharged cartridges sit up on the top of the case holder block. Ridiculously overpriced RCBS reloader block. It came with a kit. I didn't order this one. It came with a reloader package for this rock chucker along with this powder measure. So we're going to set all of our cartridges up on the top holder, and then once I fill them, I'm going to drop them down into the lower shell holder like that. So once they're dropped down, it will be after I've charged the case. Like I said, if you reload, absolutely must have a system to be able to tell which cases you've charged and which cases have yet to be charged. A double charge is probably one of the worst things you can do as a reloader. So make sure you have a system to be able to tell when you've charged a case. Alright, so charging our first round here. The cone of the bullet sits nicely right up into this. And we charged. So, definitely powder in there. One of the things that you may want to do on your first round is just one more measure to make sure that your charge is looking the way you expect. So we're going to do that. And it's right on. Alright. Now, when you're using a hand drum powder measure, you want to make sure that you're consistent about how rough you are with it, because the grains will shake into the drum. When you rotate it, that little tink is it's bottoming out, and when it hits that, it shakes the new powder into the drum at the bottom. And the way the powder shakes down has to be consistent, otherwise you won't get a consistent charge. So if you do it really lightly, continue to do it lightly. If you like to whack it on the top and bottom, you know, do the same amount of power every time. So, charged case, we set that into the bottom holder, and we know that one has powder in it. Alright? Just like that. We do that for all 50 rounds. And next is bullet seating. Alright, I'll see you then. Alright, so we are going to set up our Redding competition seat dive, because right here it gives micrometer adjustments for the bullet seat depth. Super tight tolerances, very consistent seating depth. For these, we're using Sierra 220 grain 30 caliber bullets with a soft tip. First, as you can see, I carefully read the instructions on how to set it up. So we put our ram with the cartridge. Very important that the shell holder is already in there, because if you set the die up and then put a shell holder in there, you're going to crush the die, and it's going to be the wrong depth anyways. So shell holder goes in first, and then we set the die up. So the instructions said to put the ram in its uppermost position, screw the competition seating die in, compressing the sleeve until the outer die body makes contact with the shell holder, which is right there. And then we back it out so the micrometer adjustments are easy to read. And right there seems good. Alrighty. So the micrometer bullet seat depth, we want these markings right here to be facing me so I can read them. And then we've got the lock ring on the bottom here, which is now stuck in place. Very lightly so I don't mar the shit out of it. There we go. Alright, let's do that again. All the way to the bottom. So it's bottomed out on the lever right now. If I turn this back just slightly, the micrometer adjustment markings are facing me, which is what I... Oh, no. Hold on. That came unscrewed quite a bit. Alright. There. Now we're touching the die body. I'm going to back that out until the micrometer markings are facing me, and then tighten the lock ring down. Like so. So that'll give us a little bit of clearance between the shell holder and the die body so it doesn't get damaged. And then we basically seat the bullets. So 2.23 cartridge overall length is what we're looking for. So the bullet is 1.3 inches. So that gives an inch of cartridge and powder where the bullet is not seated. But the bullet is going to be seated quite a ways down in that cartridge. So we'll do 2.23 overall length. And I just hit the seat depth right there. So we may have to back this out a little more. So we're going to just do a little bit, and we're not going to bottom it out yet. First we're going to measure where we're at. So we are at 2.359. And 2.23 is how far we want to go. So we only have a little bit left before this thing is ready to crimp. That was nowhere near bottoming the press out. So we're now at 2.276. A little bit more to go. Okay, so here's the worry here, is I am nowhere near bottoming this press out, and I am at 2.245. I have 0.15 inches left to go before this is supposed to bottom out. So we're gonna back this off as far as we possibly can. So 0.15 inches is, I'll show you. I mean, you can't even see the gap on the micro. Well, you can see the gap, but that is a tiny amount of space left to go. And we are I mean, that's where the bullet is hitting right there. And I'm completely off the micrometer marks. We're going to need to back the die out a little more. That's what's going to need to happen here. So, loosen the lock ring. Let's do one full turn, and then go back in for it. All right, we just made contact with the bullet. So we want to lock it right there because that is the appropriate die depth. And then for a bullet, again, we're at 2.244 right now. So we will make micrometer adjustments until we're at 2.23, which is this top knob right here. That should put us at about 2.23 right there. I felt a little bit of pressure at the end there, the remaining seating depth. We are at 2.28, so we are 0.02 inches off. Take that right out to there. That is not enough of an overseat to worry about overpressure. That is just fine. So we'll take our next one, and we will see if we get 2.230 or very close to it. And we bottomed out right there after adjusting. So this one is at 2.230 on the dot. So we got it. Seating depth is good. I've used these Redding competition seating dies before, and they are amazingly consistent once they are adjusted. I guarantee I will be within 0.005 inches on every single other bullet that I seat now that this is adjusted. So we're going to go ahead and seat all 48 that are left of these, and then we're going to do a factory crimp. Alrighty, well, we've got 50 bullets all seated to the cartridge overall length that I want. Now it's time to make a crimp to make sure that the bullet seating depth doesn't shift when they are used in the firearm. Them hitting the feed ramp can knock the bullet into the case, change the pressure. That's not a good thing. So we're going to crimp it to make sure the bullet stays at the correct seat depth, and to make sure that they feed in a semi-auto. So I've got my Redding crimp die, taper crimp die from the 3-die competition set. We're going to loosen up the ring here so that we can adjust it freely. We put our shell in here, and again we bottom out the ram so that it's all the way up. We screw this in till we feel it touch the case. Right there, felt it touch. So now, depending on how heavy of a crimp that you want, from here you can go a half turn, a full turn. It also is necessary to crimp as little as possible so that you can actually reuse your brass again. The more you manipulate the brass at the end of the case, the more likely it is to crack with repeated use. So you want to move it as little as possible. So we're going to go with the half turn here. So I'm looking straight at it, and I see the last 0 in 300. So we're going to do about a half a turn there. And just loosely tighten our lock ring down right there. And let's see what kind of crimp that produces. There, the bullet hit the die, and we've got a teeny bit of movement there until it bottoms out. Pull it out. And we can see a very minor crimp there. Let's see how much of the brass went up into the crimp section approximately. We have maybe 0.25 maybe 0.025. So not a heavy crimp. Now, the big thing is, can this bullet move after that crimp? I'm not getting any movement out of it. So it is definitely same OAL as when I pressed it. So this is going to mess up the end of the bullet, but we're just going to make sure here. And you can see it flattened out the end of the nice expensive bullet, but you know, the distance up to the distance up to that crimp line did not change. So I think we have a successful crimp at a half turn. We're going to do all of them, and then the last stage is shooting them. So we will we'll crimp these, and then we'll see you tomorrow with the shooting video to test them out.